Good morning. It is actually afternoon. It's 12:11. I'm in my office and I'm editing the next video in the table saw build series. And I'm mostly done. I should get it done today. Hopefully. This is 3 days into this, so really starting to get a little bit worn out. I used to be able to sit down and edit the entire video at one sitting, and now I can't do that. I have to, like when I say 3 days, it's 3 days off and on type thing. I have to get up after 2 or 3 hours sitting here straight and go do something else just to break it up. Otherwise it, burns into your retinas type deal. When you're a kid and you're playing your first video game, like first video game that I had at home was Asteroids. And I swear, when I close my eyes and concentrate on it, I can see those rocks moving past, to this day. Anyway, so what's the point of this video? I watched Jeremy Schmidt's video last night, and he talked about actually giving this up and getting a job. And he's in his 20s. I'm not sure of his actual age. He's young. And he's basically been doing this, as a job for the past 4 years. And see, this is what gets me. I have had, like when I was his age, I was working. I had a job. And when I think back to what I actually knew when I was that age, like it would fit inside this bottle in relative terms. I knew nothing. So he's like way ahead of the game. I had to work for 30 plus years before I got here, is what I'm saying. And he's already here, basically. I mean, I might know some more details of, this and that and the other thing, but I don't think it's enough to make a big enough difference that you could say that my 30 years of experience out in the field, working and whatever, was, a big advantage for me. And if anything, it sort of works against me because it taught me to be efficient with the way I do things. And sometimes when I'm making videos, that doesn't come across as efficiency. Some people see that as skipping steps, cutting corners, doing shoddy work, or just making a video for the sake of doing a video, or making changes for the sake of making changes. And something else that it did was that when I go to the shop now to do some woodworking thing, there's basically nothing that I haven't done before. So I don't have the same enthusiasm for it as I did have when I was much younger. And I've talked about this before in another video. So getting back to Jeremy, and if you don't know who I'm talking about, there's a link to his channel in the description. If you haven't seen the stuff that he's done, you owe it to yourself to go watch it because he's extraordinarily talented. He knows what he's doing. Like I've seen guys that are twice his age that don't know as much. Anyway, getting back to that, he says he wants to get into renewable technology type things. And to do that, he wants to go work for someone. So that's one way. The only problem with going to work for someone is that generally you need some kind of university degree or something like that to show that you're committed enough to do this kind of work, and or at least you have some educational background in the subject. I never went to university. I was gonna go, but I changed my mind. So I don't know, like, if there's any practical experience that can be applied to what you're going to be going into that you'll actually get from university. Like, experience usually comes in the real world from doing the work, that you're supposed to be doing. So that's kind of a strike against you when you don't have the so-called education to back up what you're supposed to be doing, to get your foot in the door, basically. And it makes me think of someone else on YouTube, a much smaller channel, and he does renewable energy projects, James Bigger, and I'll put his channel linked in the description as well, and he's working on like a completely handmade windmill that even the generator part is all handmade. It's very interesting. It's very satisfying to watch his videos, seeing how this is coming together, because this is not his first time doing this type of project. He has experience doing it, and he seems to be doing well at it. This is the other thing. So there are other options rather than going out and actually working for someone. So yeah, James is a good example of getting into that type of technology on your own. But the other thing that Jeremy said in the video was that he's basically turned into a recluse and that he never leaves home. And I don't know if he has a personal problem with that, because that didn't come through in the video. Because a lot of times people around you will see this behavior and they'll say that it's not normal, or they'll, try to encourage you to get out more and all that. Like it's critically important that you drop what you're doing, which is very important, and go out and do something that's of no consequence. And you know what? There is some validity to that. And I've done my fair share of that when I was younger. And I think that's more when you need it. You need it when you're younger. But anybody that's doing this, like Jeremy's doing, at this level, is basically in the same boat. Like, we're all stuck inside pretty much, and this consumes your life. It has to. In order to keep this to the level where you can actually make a living from it, you have to commit 100% to it. You don't have any time for most everything else. I mean, the stuff that normal people seem to value. So, I don't know. It's difficult. I know for a young person, they want to make a change. The problem is the change going in the right direction? Like, would it be effective to just change your focus and get into something that you're interested in and stay on the path that you are, as in, like, try to do it yourself, and then along with that, try to get out more, or I don't know. Some people are just not geared that way. Like me, I'm as surprising as a lot of people that watch my videos would be. I'm basically a introvert. I'm happy. I'm the most content actually when I'm by myself doing the things that I like to do. And that's the thing. A lot of people seem to think that's abnormal activity, that you should change, the expression is come out of your shell more. But believe me, I've been out of my shell, and I'm much more comfortable back inside. Are you still there? I can almost see it now. There's going to be people that are commenting and saying that, you know what, I'm the same way. I'm introverted, but I feel the pressure from people around me to, be more sociable or whatever. And this is the problem. I mean, people that are introverted, that are basically content in their own, little sphere of activity that they're doing, are marginalized by the rest of society and made to feel like they're doing something wrong. And you look around at all of the great accomplishments through human history and pinpoint the individuals that, if we're not directly responsible for them, we're directly related in some way, and they're all this type of person. They're the introvert, the thinker, the person that comes up with all the details that go into the greatest things that take place. They make it possible for the extroverts, like the salesmen, to become rich and famous from their work. And a good example of that is like Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs. Wozniak, the thinker, the builder; Jobs, the salesman, the person that could actually market what you're coming up with. So yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with being a hermit or a recluse, introvert, however you want to label it. These are the people that get stuff done. Like sit in front of the computer for hours on end, editing a video on a project that you work 3 weeks on. That's only a very small part of a much larger project. You can't get these things done as efficiently if you're out partying every night. There's nothing wrong with partying every once in a while, socializing occasionally, of course. But if you're geared for this type of thing, I say embrace it, man. Like, I'll give myself as an example here. It's not like I just started being introverted when I started doing YouTube. Not at all. I was like this when I was a kid. I would be perfectly happy to be working on something for hours on end by myself, and actually preferred it to be that way, because if you get someone else involved, first of all, you have to explain to them, what exactly you're doing, because they didn't understand what you're doing. And then after you get through the ridicule that they probably rain down on you for doing something that's, stupid or whatever, or saying that you can't do it, which is another one of my favorite things, then you would try to get them to do some part of it that they simply didn't have the talent or ability or experience to do, and you would feel total frustration. So leave me alone. Let me play in my sandbox by myself. And then when I entered the workforce, it was exactly the same thing. I mean, I'd go to work during the day and do all the normal work type things, and I would come home in the evening and I would go back to working by myself, working on things that I was interested in by myself, because that was what I wanted to do. And if this is what you find yourself doing, then you're this type of person. There's no point fighting it. Go with it. Revel in it. There are more than enough of those other types of people out there that just cruise through life and don't accomplish anything of any significance.
Never let anyone pick on you. Otherwise, you'll carry it with you the rest of your life. And those kids at school, they were bigger than you.
Yeah.
And bring a knife to school. They take it off you and beat you up. You go around their houses at night and burn them down with their families inside. What's the worst they can do?